Good afternoon, everyone. We are now going into Numbers chapter 11. Numbers chapter 11 continues from chapter 10. And I'd like us to bear in mind at the end of chapter 10, what really happened so that we can pick up the story. Chapter 10, verse 33 says, they departed from the mountain of the Lord. Remember, this is Mount Sinai, and they went on a journey of 3 days. And the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord went before them for the 3 days journey to search out a resting place for them. And the cloud of the Lord was above them by day when they went out from the camp. Now, that's our background. They are on this journey. Now, when we get to chapter 11, you find that when the people complained, it displeased the Lord. For the Lord heard it, his anger was aroused, so the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed in the outskirts of the camp. Now, we need a little bit of dissecting the Hebrew for this one. So let me just begin by saying, whenever you read the words, the people, as opposed to my people, right, versus my people, one of the interesting observation that you would find is that, when a parent is angry with a child, and he or she turns to the spouse and says, see, your son. And there is a tendency to disengage and treat the son at arm's length. This is a very oriental way of expression. And so when you see the word the people, when God says the people, it has a tendency to see that God is not happy. When God is happy, he would talk about my people versus the people. Now, why is God not happy in this case? The word here is complain. Complain means to murmur. What else can we say? This is to murmur. And complain is actually a good word, but in our case, we are really saying, I guess complaining in our modern day would be a fair translation. And they are complaining about the poor treatment of food. That's what they were complaining, and we'll see that later on. So I'm just trying to point out to you that they made a complaint. The people made a complaint. So God is not happy with them. And so it says here, it displeased the Lord. Now, the word displeased means it was evil, right? It was evil in the ear of the Lord. Now, I know that you are reading like 5 English words compared to displeased, but that's in the Hebrew. The Hebrew has more than one word there, and it literally tells us that God is hearing what he considers evil in his ears. Now, you remember, I've always been saying this, that good and evil, tov and ra, is really from the eyes of the beholder, and in this case, the ears of the listener. And so God himself, Jehovah, is hearing all this mumbling and grumbling that is happening by what he calls, in this case, the people instead of my people. The people, and God feels that it's evil. Now, evil doesn't mean like they are thinking of killing somebody or doing something in our modern day considered evil. It's just that it is not right in the eyes of God or in the ears of God. When God hears all this, God is angry. So that is what the English word displease actually mean in this case. And so God heard it in the sense that he actually picked up the sounds and understood what they said. And then this word, his anger was aroused. Literally, it says that his nose was hot. The word hot here means to burn. His nose was burning. And so this is a symbolic language, obviously, but it gives us a picture, an imagery that the nose is on fire or fire is coming out of the nose. So the picture is when somebody is angry, the nose is flaring out. It's like, no, very angry. And so the English translates it as his anger was aroused. But the next line is important for us to take note. And so it says, so the fire of the Lord burned. Now the word fire is literally fire, right? Literally fire. And the word burn here is consume. Now, whenever you read of offering, right? God's fire consumed, and that's what it means. Consume means the fire literally burned out whatever is in its path. And so it says here, the fire of the Lord means God literally sent fire down, and I believe from heaven, among them. And the word, well, I would say the word among them gives us the picture that fire came down from heaven into the camp. And where specifically in the camp happened. And so we find that this word consume literally means to eat, which is essentially, let me just put it here, this word and this word, it's the same word, right? It's the same word. And you can see in English, one is burn, one is consume, but basically they come from the same word. And so the fire ate what? Ate those in the outskirts of the camp. Now the word outskirts here literally means at the extreme ends of the camp. And one interesting thing that we are seldom told or we seldom talk about is that in the early chapters of Numbers, the census of the Israelites, and then in chapter 2 was discussed how they were camped, and the middle of it is the tabernacle, and so all of that spoke about the tabernacle, the Levites, the priests, as well as the 12 tribes of Israel. However, there were other people that were part of this camp. The other people that were part of the camp were the mixed multitude, meaning the people who were not Israelites, who joined them. They were staying at the sides of the camp, and they were not staying inside or in the middle of the camp. So at least this part we need to just bear in mind. Verse 2, then the people, again, right? The people cried out to Moses, and when Moses prayed to the Lord, the fire was quenched. And so recall, this is the people. The people is generally referred to when God is unhappy or displeased with them. And then Moses interceded. That's the word. Interceded. Meaning went in to pray on their behalf, to God. And God listened, and the fire was quenched. The word quenched means subsided, or sank. And literally, what that means is that the fire that came from heaven, at least what we are saying, that God's fire suddenly appeared. Now, whether it came from heaven or it appeared from the ground, we don't know. But this particular word right here says quenched, means that it went back into the ground. It went into the ground, right? And settled inside the ground. So verse 3 says this. And so he being Moses, called the name of the place. So remember, Shem being named is always something that you want to serve as a memorial, serve as a remembrance. Meaning, whenever you hear of the name, it will trigger the memory of what events actually happened. And the name of this place is Tabera, right? And it should be spelled this way. So Tabera. Tabera comes from a word, Ba'ar, which is this word here, right here, right? Which is this word here, consume. Comes from the word Ba'ar, which is to consume, eat, burn. And it says, why? Because the fire of the Lord had burned among them. And so you notice they use words that is related. So this word burn is also ba'ar, which means to consume. And so whenever you hear of Tabera, it is about the fire of God eating up the ones at the extreme ends of the camp. Verse 4. Now the mixed multitude who were among them yielded to intense craving. So the children of Israel also wept again and said, who will give us meat to eat? We remember the fish we ate freely in Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic. But now our whole being is dried up. There is nothing, all except this manna before our eyes. So you notice this is the context of the complaint. They are still complaining. And so we are now looking at this word mixed multitude. Mixed multitude means a collection which is of mixed people, right? Of mixed people. So I think we can use that word. Say a collection of mixed people. So the mixed multitude who were among them, and when it says mixed people, these were not Israelites, and they were among them. And these were the ones who are in the interior. So now we have two groups of people, those of the outside and those who are the inside. And God has destroyed some of them on the outside. And now the ones on the inside is now instigating. And so what did they instigate? They instigated themselves to yield to intense craving. Now, what does that mean? We need to understand that intense craving is, how should you say, a deep, how to say, a deep, lustful, right? Appetite. A deep, lustful appetite, which is about wanting to eat and wanting to yield to their hunger. And then it says, in verse 4, so the children of Israel wept again. Now notice this one, wept again. Literally tells us that this idea of weep is wailing. Wailing in complaining. And return to this wailing mode, which already displeased God. And now the challenge they had is this: they're asking, who will give us meat to eat? Meat means flesh. So if you have always been eating non-meat, if you had a diet that is non-meat, this people is now complaining, I want to have some meat. What kind of meat did they think it was? Now, this is all about eating, by the way. And by eating, this is about food. They are complaining about the kind of food which is here. They murmured about God giving a poor treatment of food. And the poor treatment is that all they had was man. Right? Man. The English is manna, but actually the word is man. And you could also say Haman, right? This particular manna. They've been having manna ever since chapter 16 and 17 of Exodus. And they've been eating until now. So now you're into the second year, and they have left Mount Sinai. And on this 3-day journey, they're starting to complain. They're making noise, and they have instigated the sons of Israel to join them. And so all of them went on board to complain. What about the fish that we ate? And it says here, freely. The word freely means, I won't say it is without paying, right? I know in some cases, people think that this is free means non-payment. I would think that there was a lot of fish to eat because of the Nile River. And so they said that this is free because they went there, they fished, they can have fish to eat. The second one was cucumber. The idea of cucumber, something that is stiff, a hard vegetable, perhaps it's cucumber. we don't really know, but let's take it for cucumber, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. And these are all common ingredients in Egypt. This particular word, garlic, shroom, comes from the smell. Comes from the word, the smell of the garlic. And it says, now my whole being, my whole nephesh is dried up. Now the word dry here, yabesh, this literally means, drying up from no more moisture. And this gives us a picture of being malnourished. Okay, I think that would be the idea that is being conveyed here, saying that, well, we only have one diet called man, right? Or Haman, the man. And there is nothing else that we are feeding on, right? There's no fish, no cucumber, no melon, no leek, no onion, no garlic. It doesn't taste and smell like how we have been having it all our lives. in Egypt. And so we are now being malnourished, and that is the complaint. God is mistreating us. Now, understand this. This is instigated by those who are not Israelites, who is longing for home. And the Israelites have joined in as well. Now we come to a little minor break that we'll discuss and describe about the manna. The manna was like coriander seeds. The idea of coriander seeds, this is not coriander, but it looks like, remember this particular word, like. This word here appears to be coriander seed, right? Its color is like the color of bdellium. Bdellium gum, perhaps it looks like pearl color. Pearl color. Not white, but it's like something off-white, I guess. Something off-white. The people went about, gathered it, ground it in millstones, beat it in the mortar, and then he cooked it in pans, made cakes of it, and it tastes like pastry prepared with oil. And again, the word like. So it appears to be, right? And when the dew fell on the camp in the night, the manna fell on it. And so that's heavenly food, I would say, that is now being used by the whole camp for well over a year, and now they're starting to complain. Verse 10, then Moses heard the people weeping. Weeping means, like we had seen just now, wailing, right? Wailing. It means that their complaint is quite intense throughout their families. It's like everyone crying at the door. And the anger of the Lord was greatly aroused. What does this mean? It means that the nose of the Lord was very hot. That's what it physically looked like or sounds like. Moses was also displeased. What does this mean? The literal word means that all this was also evil in the eyes of Moses. That's what it means, right? And so it's not that Moses was angry. Moses was also not happy. In Moses' eyes, this is not right, right? In Moses' eyes, what is happening, the people wailing and crying as if they've got nothing to eat and blaming God as if God has mistreated them and have given them malnutrition, is not right in the eyes of Moses, because he saw that God took care of them very carefully throughout the passage of time in Mount Sinai. And then Moses also remembered God destroyed 3,000 of them by the sword of the Levites because they worshiped the golden calf. And so Moses is now saying, this is not right. I cannot carry this burden. This people has been so unfair and complain. Now you must understand, Moses is like any one of us as well. When people complain about things under his authority, it means that the people are complaining about him. And he feels that it is not a fair treatment. It is not a fair complaint because he has no spiritual or supernatural ability to turn things around. Everything was God. God happened to put Moses into this leadership position. Now look at Moses' conversation with God. He says, why have you afflicted your servant? The word afflicted, again, it says, be evil. Now, we don't read this in English, but this is what happens. Why have you treated your servant with evil? What do you mean? It means that in the eyes of Moses, everything that is happening right now is not right in his eyes. Continue on. It says this, why have I not found favor in your eyes? Understand this, favor, grace in your eyes. Why do we have this problem? God, why didn't you solve it first? That you have laid the burden of all these people on me. What do you mean the burden of all these people? Masa is burden. Burden means something heavy. And Moses sees this as an obligation that is very heavy. What obligation? The responsibility of all these people on his shoulders, right? Upon him. And so Moses is now feeling the weight of the complaint of the millions of people. Of course, all of these are now seen in a new light. So Moses is now saying that I conceive all these people means what? He says, did I get pregnant with all these people? Was I made pregnant for all these people? Because if I am pregnant with these people, that is my children. And so he says, did I beget them? Means did I give birth to them? So understand this is an A and this is a B, right? It's usually treated that being pregnant and the subsequent giving birth is one and the same. But of course, the nuance is slightly different. But the idea here is that Moses is saying, did I conceive them in my womb? No, that's more symbolic, right? And did I give birth to them? Also very symbolic. Moses is a man, and so he cannot give birth like a woman, but it's treated as a symbol. Now, these people are like given birth, and they're always complaining like spoiled brats, spoiled children. That you should say to me, God is saying to them, carry them in your bosom as a guardian carries a nursing child to the land which you swore to their fathers. What does that mean? He says, am I lifting them? And then it says, in your bosom. In your bosom doesn't really mean in your bosom. This really means, and it's similar to the phrase in the book of Ruth, lifting them to the bosom to be suckled, right? To be suckled. And then it says here, as a guardian carries a nursing child. Wait, let me just move back a bit, sorry. Okay. And so carry them to your bosom. Now this word bosom also appears in the book of Ruth. And this really means the breasts, right? The breasts. And this gives us a picture of suckling. So the word guardian here is the one who suckles, right? Who allows the baby to suckle. And then a nursing child is given the picture of one who suckles. And so this whole picture is giving us this imagery that Moses saying, hey, I'm not the mommy of these children of Israel that I have to babysit them and nurse them and nanny them all the way to the land which you swore to their fathers. Where am I to get meat to give all these people? The word meat is flesh, and this would be animal flesh, because they wanted steaks, and things of that nature. And then they weep all over me, means they wail. And so now let me go back to all the instances of weeping, like here, weeping. And in the early verses of weeping, when it says they were weeping, they were actually weeping and wailing against, right? Against, upon Moses. They were complaining about Moses. They never complained directly to God, if you can see this. Although the text seems to say that it displeased God, the intent was they were unhappy with the conditions. And these people who were from the mixed multitude instigated the sons of Israel, and everybody was wailing and crying and bemoaning, and it really upset Moses. It says, give us meat that we may eat. I am not able to bear all these people alone, because the burden is too heavy for me. The whole million over people all complaining at the same time, well, that wasn't what Moses signed up for. And now he turns around to God. If you treat me like this, treat means if you make me like this to face all these troubled children, right? Please kill me here and now. Now you can see how intensely stressed Moses is. He says, please kill me. Literally, here and now. Well, basically, it means just take me away. I can't face these sets of complaints anymore. If I have found grace in your eyes, do not let me see my wretchedness. And this is a very interesting prayer. The word wretchedness means evil. And so Moses is seeing evil, and that is done by the people that is wailing, complaining, asking for food, which Moses can't deliver, obviously. And Moses is feeling very strained, very stressed, to the point that he doesn't want to do this anymore. He's about to give up. He says, I've had it with these people. Just kill me now, right? Don't wait. That is the intensity of stress. And so he prays to God, says, God, if I found favor in your eyes, please don't let me see this kind of evil. Please don't let me experience such things, right? That's his prayer. Now, obviously, 1 million people under him is no joke. And so God now tells Moses, as opposed to what Jethro has told him in chapter 17 of Exodus. Now God said to Moses, you know what? I am going to help you release your stress. And it's all in the sense of planning and management. And this is really interesting because it says, gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people, and officers over them. Bring them to the tabernacle of meeting, that they may stand there with you. Now, let's look at some of these words. First, 70 men, right? 70 men. This is of gender, no women, all men. And the word gather is to collect. Collect 70. And obviously he has to do some counting and examining. Now, we don't know exactly what he did, but he was supposed to find 70 men from the elders, the older people, older men, okay, of Israel, whom you know that they are the elders of the people. Now again, the word elders here are older, but they are in a position of being leaders as well of the people. And they are and this word is officers. Officers means they oversee them, right? They oversee them. They seem to, how should we say? They seem to rule over them, right? Rule over them. Bring them to the tabernacle of meeting where God meets with Moses, that they may stand there. Stand there literally means stand, right? Cause themselves to stand with Moses facing God. Now let me just pause just to quickly explain this. The word elders in the Israel culture is very similar to the Oriental culture. You know, in a Chinese village, the elderly are the ones that they respect a lot, and amongst the elderly, they would nominate and elect the few of them who can represent the tribe. And so you might call them the clan chief. And the clan chief is not a 20-something year old. The clan chief is always probably the oldest people around in the clan. And that's what God is asking them to do. So when we use the word elder, or read the word elder here, it literally means people who are the elderly, and yet they are officers, people who rule over them. Then I will come down, I will talk with you, I will take the spirit, the ruach, the character that is upon you, that now Moses have the character of what? Leadership. And I will put the same upon them, that they too now, the 70 men, will also have similar leadership, and they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that you may not bear it yourself alone. So beneath Moses, there will be 70 that God will endow the same character of leadership, that you shall say to the people, consecrate yourselves for tomorrow. The word consecrate means to set aside, right? Reserve yourself for tomorrow. Yeah, I guess the word reserve is good. Don't do anything, and tomorrow you shall eat meat, for you have wept in the hearing of the Lord, saying, who will give us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt, but they have left Egypt. Things are different, but they still want Egypt. They haven't left Egypt. They may have physically left, but their mind and their appetite is still very Egyptian. So the Lord will give you meat and you shall eat. So God is the one who will give. And so God is saying, I am going to relieve you of the stress. Two stresses that Moses had. One is he can't carry the burden because he do not know how to settle the complaints. And so God says, choose 70 people. He cannot handle the meat. Where is he going to get meat? And so God says, I will give you meat. And you shall eat not 1 day or 2 or 5 or 10 or 20, but for a whole month. Understand, when you say a whole month, a whole month would be 1 moon. That's about 29 to 30 days. And look at this. It's very oriental. It's until you eat so much of it until it comes out of your nose and become loathsome to you. And why is God doing this? Because you have despised the Lord. Now, the word despised the Lord is that you have, how should we say? You have refused God. You have refused God, right? Refused God. You have, I guess you could say, you have melted away from his allegiance. You have, I guess you could use the word, you would have retracted from your faith in God, who is amongst you, and you have wept before him. You have cried to him, saying, why did we ever come out of Egypt? The word loathsome is disgusting, right? Disgusting. This is wailing. Disgusting to the point where they will vomit. Right? You eat so much of the same thing that you will vomit. So God is punishing them. God is teaching them a lesson, and this is not a reward for wailing. And so this is a payback. This is God's judgment for ever questioning God. Why did God take them out of Egypt? Moses said, there are 600,000 men on foot, and yet you say, I will give them meat that they may eat for a whole month. How? Even if you slaughter all the flocks and herds for them, that won't be enough. Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together to provide enough for them? So Moses knows how to count. He says there is no way all the animals that we brought out, even if you kill all of them, not going to happen. And then verse 23 is a very important phrase that comes from Exodus chapter 12 and 13. And the Lord said to Moses, has the Lord's arm been shortened? Now you shall see whether what I say will happen to you or not. Now, this is a very crucial expression. Let me just break this down in Hebrew first. So it says, has the arms of God been shortened? The word shorten literally means cut short. Cut short means made unable. So in short, it's saying, you mean, are you saying that God cannot do this? Now that's the question. Are you saying that my hand is now shortened, that I cannot do what I say? Because in Exodus chapter 12 and 13, God says, God is taking them out of Egypt with an outstretched arm. Now, the outstretched arm is a picture that is the opposite of shortened, right? Versus outstretched. So when you stretch out the arm, it literally gives us a picture saying, I can do anything. It's in my power to take you out of Egypt. And now when they complain, then God says to Moses, did my arm get cut off? That's basically what it means. Are you telling me now, after I've taken you out of Egypt with my outstretched arm, that my arm has been cut short? Now you shall see. Now this is what I'm saying that's very important. The word see is to look, to perceive, to learn, experience. It comes from the same word. Now you can, all of these will be a good translation. Now you can look and see what I'm doing. Now you can perceive, look and learn what I'm doing and experience whether this is going to happen, will happen to you or not, means that whether God is going to make his word come to pass. So God is saying, I'm going to feed them. And Moses said, how? How? All right. Verse 24, Moses went out, told the people what God had said. And he gathered the 70 men of the old people of the people, placed them around the tabernacle. The Lord came down in the cloud, spoke to him, and took of the spirit, or the, I would say, character that was upon Moses, and placed it on the 70 men who are elderly. And it happened when the character of God, right? This is the character, rested upon them. They can actually see there's an immediate change. They prophesied, but they never did so again. So there seems to be an immediate experience, a supernatural experience. And this means that they spoke as a prophet. The word prophesy here means spoke as a prophet. And they are able to speak as they never had or could speak. Which means that there was a short period of demonstration that the things they said was so much like Moses. Like that is what I am understanding this verse to be. That when they started prophesying, they spoke like Moses, but they never did again after this. Verse 26, but 2 men in the camp had remained in the camp, and one of them was Eldad, and the other was Medad. And the character of God rested upon them, and they were among those listed, but who had not gone out to the tabernacle. So what we find is that now the 2 men, which are elders who were selected, and not they were among those listed 70 elders, but they had not gone to the tabernacle, so only 68 were there. Yet they prophesied in the camp. And a young man ran and told Moses and said, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp like the other 68. And now you see here, Yehoshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant, and we will see in Deuteronomy, he is the one who replaced Moses, one of his choice men, And I guess when it says one of the choice men, means he's a young man selected to do this work. Answered and said, Moses, my Lord. And notice this word is Adoni, right? Adoni. When God is speaking, it would be Adonai. And so this would be a human Lord, right? It says to Moses, restrain them. Forbid them means tell them to shut up. I think this would be a good way of translating. Then Moses said to him, are you zealous for my sake? This is not jealous in the sense of jealous as negative. This is zealous means he's passionate to correct a wrong. He's just passionate, right? In this form of jealousy, he's just passionate, and all the Lord's people were prophets, and the Lord will put his spirit upon them. So why would you care if everyone spoke like prophets? That God would put his spirit, and that would be his character upon them as an idea of empowerment. What does he mean that the Lord would put? If God were to do that, why do you care? If God were to make all instead of only 70, why would you care? And so this is about God's appointment. It has to be on God's rules. Why should anyone be concerned why this is happening? And so Moses returned to the camp, he and the elders of Israel. In our last segment, a wind went out from the Lord. Now, this is also wind, ruach, spirit. But here, in context, it is translated as wind. The wind came out from God together, and it brought quail from the sea and left them fluttering near the camp. About a day's journey on this side, and about a day's journey on the other side, and all around the camp. What does that mean? It means that if they were in the center of the camp, these were all around the quail. But interestingly, the quail was not in the camp. Notice, the quail was not in the camp. The quail was all around. And this word all around literally means surrounding. And so this is a supernatural event because it came out from God. God did this, supernaturally brought quail. Now the word quail, these are little birds that are very slow. And so they can be easily caught even if they're on the ground. And it's about 2 cubits above the surface of the ground. 2 cubits would be approximately, 735, maybe about almost 3 feet above the surface of the ground. Almost 36 inches. Almost, right? Almost 36 inches. Now that's a lot of quail. That's a lot of quail. And it's not taking away from anybody's food. And this was what God had provided for them. And the people stayed up all that day, all night, the next day, and gathered the quail. And he who gathered least gathered 10 homers. The idea of homer is, how should you say, it's about, if we have a tank, a heap of about a large heap, I guess, a large heap. You could say that it's at least the water bottles in the offices. This would be approximately 65 gallons tank, and they had and that would be the least, which means that they had so much that they can use to eat, and they were still alive, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. And while the meat was still between their teeth before it was chewed, the wrath of God was aroused against the people, and the Lord struck the people with a great plague. Now, we don't know what the plague is. Understand, the word here is a slaughter. Something that happened and people died. And that is called a plague, something that God struck the people with a carnage, with a pestilence. And so he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaavah. Kibroth Hattaavah, where they buried the people who had yielded to craving. Now, the word craving is not just a desire, it is a coveting, a sense of lusting that you want it, so you want things so badly for themselves. And so God killed them, and so they buried the people there, and God called the place Kibroth Hattaavah. Right? Kibroth Hattaavah. And the next commentary would be saying that from Kibroth, right? Kibroth Hattaavah, the people then moved to Hatzerot, and they camped in Hatzerot. And so God is angry with the people, giving them quail to eat is a punishment. And while they were chewing the meat, God sent a plague and killed them. And many of them died. So we don't know how many, but people did die. And they buried the dead there. And this is because it's to show that God is very upset with them, because they wanted things for themselves to the extent of complaining about God, complaining why God let them out, thinking that God is not taking care of them, and they have no sense of allegiance and fear of God. And with that, God dealt with them completely. And with this, we come to the end of chapter 11.